Every 2 weeks, something strange happens in this country. Roughly 80 million direct deposits land between Thursday night and Friday morning. And by Monday, nearly half of that money has already changed hands. Not to landlords, not to utility companies, not to debt payments, to impulse for convenience, to a version of comfort that lasts about 72 hours before the tightness in your chest returns. There is a man in Phoenix who earns $86,000 a year. Solid income, no child support, no medical debt. And by the 9th of every month, he is checking his balance before buying gas. Across town, a woman earning $61,000 with 2 kids puts away $700 a month and has not checked her balance in anxiety since 2022. Same city, different payday rituals. And that ritual is the entire difference. My name is Zick, and I need to tell you something that will sound almost too simple to be true. The single most destructive financial habit in the modern economy is not overspending, it is not under-earning. It is what you do in the first 48 hours after your paycheck arrives. That window, those 2 days, is where wealth either starts compounding or starts evaporating. And most people have never once examined what actually happens inside it. Let me walk you through what is really going on and why changing this one pattern can alter your financial trajectory more than any raise, side hustle, or budgeting app ever will. The first mistake: you spend from the full balance. This is the one that gets almost everyone, and it is so normalized that it does not even feel like a mistake. Your check hits. You open your banking app, you see a number, and for a brief, intoxicating moment, you feel flush. That feeling is not wealth. It is a neurological event. Researchers at the University of Cambridge published findings showing that the perception of a higher account balance temporarily activates the same reward centers in the brain as a small windfall. Even though the money was already earned and already allocated, your brain treats payday like a bonus, and you spend accordingly. You buy lunch out instead of packing it because you just got paid. You say yes to the online cart you have been holding for a week. You upgrade the grocery run from practical to indulgent. None of these purchases feel reckless at the moment. They feel earned. But here is the math that nobody runs. If you spend just $40 more than necessary in the first 48 hours of every paycheck, and you are paid bi-weekly, that is $1,040 a year. Invested at 8% over 20 years, that $40 per payday leak becomes over $51,000, not $40, $51,000. That is the real cost of spending from a full balance instead of a planned one. The second mistake: you pay bills after you spend, instead of before you breathe. Most people treat payday like a pool of water. They splash around in it first, then try to figure out how much is left for the important things. Rent comes out, subscriptions pull, the car payment hits, and suddenly that flush feeling from Friday morning becomes Sunday night dread. This is backwards. And it is backwards by design, because every algorithm, notification, and marketing campaign in your life is optimized to reach you on payday. Retailers know your cycle, apps know your cycle, your own habits know your cycle. The fix is not willpower, it is sequencing. The wealthiest payday habit you can build is what I call the 0-hour transfer. Within the first 60 minutes of your paycheck landing, before you open a single app, before you buy a single coffee, move your predetermined savings amount and bill money into separate accounts. Automate it if possible, but even if you do it manually, the act of moving money before spending money rewires the psychological order of operations. You stop spending from abundance and start spending from what remains. That shift in framing is the difference between building wealth and performing busyness. The third mistake: you treat every payday as identical. Here is something that almost no financial content talks about. Not every paycheck should be spent the same way. Most people run the same unconscious routine 26 times a year. Deposit hits, bills go out, spend what is left, arrive at the next check with roughly the same balance they started with, but your expenses are not evenly distributed across the year. Insurance premiums spike in certain months, holiday spending clusters in November and December, car registration, back to school costs, annual subscriptions. These predictable, irregular expenses destroy people who treat every paycheck the same. If this is helping you so far, take 2 seconds to hit the like button. It really helps the channel. The solution is building what I call a paycheck map. This is not a budget. A budget tells you what you should spend. A paycheck map tells you what each specific paycheck needs to fund. You sit down once, list every annual and semi-annual expense you know is coming, divide each one by 26, and build a small sinking fund contribution into every paycheck. When your car registration comes due in September, the money is already sitting there. When the holidays arrive, you are not financing gifts with January's rent money. This one exercise done once eliminates roughly 70% of the financial stress most people experience throughout the year. 70% from one afternoon of planning. The fourth mistake. You use payday to catch up instead of get ahead. This is the trap that keeps middle-income earners stuck for decades. Every paycheck becomes a reset button. You pay off what you overspent last cycle. You cover the overdraft. You replenish what you borrowed from savings. And then you start the cycle again from zero. This is not financial management. This is financial trading water. You are working enormously hard to stay in exactly the same place. The way out is to break what I call the catch-up loop. And you break it by getting one paycheck ahead. Just one. This means finding a way, over the next 2 to 3 months, to create a buffer equal to one full paycheck that sits untouched in your checking account. For someone earning $50,000 a year, that is roughly $1,900. It does not have to happen fast. $50 a week for 9 months gets you there. But once that buffer exists, something psychological snaps into place. You stop operating from the current check and start operating from the last one. Your money is no longer arriving just in time, it is already there. And that shift from just in time to already there eliminates the desperation spending, the overdraft fees, the late payment penalties, and the constant low-grade anxiety that makes payday feel like relief instead of progress. Let me give you the contrast in real numbers. A person caught in the catch-up loop earning $55,000 a year will pay, on average, between $300 and $800 annually in overdraft fees, late payment charges, and interest from poorly timed credit card usage. Over 20 years, even at the low end, that is $6,000 in pure friction cost. Invested instead, that $6,000 becomes nearly $15,000. But the real cost is not the money. It is the mental bandwidth. Research from Princeton found that financial scarcity consumes the equivalent of 13 IQ points in cognitive function. You are not just losing dollars in the catch-up loop, you are losing the mental clarity needed to make better decisions about everything else in your life. The fifth mistake. You never pay yourself a percentage, you pay yourself what is left. This is the quiet killer. You have heard the phrase pay yourself first, but what most people actually do is pay themselves last. Bills go out, spending happens, and whatever thin margin survives gets swept into savings, if it gets swept at all. The problem is that what is left is always less than what you planned. Always. Because spending expands to fill available money the way gas expands to fill a container. This is Parkinson's law applied to income, and it operates below the level of conscious awareness. The fix is a hard percentage, not a dollar amount, a percentage. 10% is the classic benchmark, but even 5% works if you are starting from zero. The reason a percentage works better than a fixed number is that it scales with your income automatically, and it removes the negotiation from every paycheck. You do not decide whether to save this time. The percentage has already been decided for you. Over a 30-year career, the difference between saving what is left and saving a fixed percentage first is not incremental. It is generational. Someone saving 8% of a $60,000 salary from age 25 with average market returns retires with roughly $570,000. Someone saving whatever is left, which studies show averages closer to 2% for most households, retires with roughly $140,000, same salary, same career length, $430,000 of difference, all because of when the savings happened relative to the spending. And if you are actually getting something out of this, consider subscribing. I make videos like this every week. Now, here is what I want you to do before your next paycheck arrives. First, write down the exact date and amount of your next deposit, not a rough idea. The exact number. Second, before that deposit lands, decide the precise dollar amount that will move to savings and the precise dollar amount allocated to bills. Write both numbers down. When the deposit hits, execute those transfers within 60 minutes before you spend a single dollar on anything discretionary. Third, build your paycheck map. Take 1 hour this weekend, list every recurring and annual expense. Divide the annuals by 26. Assign each paycheck a specific job beyond just covering the next 2 weeks. This alone will change how you experience money for the rest of the year. Fourth, start building your one paycheck buffer. Even if it takes 6 months, even if it takes a year, set a small automatic transfer specifically for this purpose and do not touch it until it equals one full net paycheck. Fifth, set your hard savings percentage. Pick a number between 5 and 15%. Set the automation and do not renegotiate it with yourself every 2 weeks. Let the percentage become invisible. That invisibility is where the compounding begins. Now, remember the man in Phoenix I mentioned at the start. $86,000, no dependents, checking his balance before buying gas by the 9th of every month. His payday ritual was simple and devastating. He spent the first 48 hours treating himself because he felt like he had earned it, and he had earned it. That was never the problem. The problem was that by the time he paid himself, there was nothing left to pay. That woman across town earning $25,000 less, with 2 children pulling at every dollar, her ritual was different. She moved money the morning it arrived, she mapped her paychecks seasonally, she built her buffer over 11 months of small, unglamorous transfers. And she has not felt the Sunday night dread in over 3 years. Wealth is not built on paydays, it is built in the first 48 hours after them. The ritual you run in that window 26 times a year for 20 or 30 years is quietly writing the story of your financial life. Most people have never chosen that ritual consciously. They inherited it from stress, from marketing, from the dopamine hit of a full account balance that was never really full at all. You know the pattern now, you see it, and the next deposit that lands in your account is your chance to prove that seeing it was enough to change it. Thanks for listening. I'll see you in the next video.